Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing. We are doing episode number 127 live. It is April 27th, 2013. My name is Rob Woodbridge, founder of Untether.tv, located in the heart of Canada, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, home of the playoff-bound Ottawa Senators. With me, as always, my counterpart from the other side of Ontario.
Steve Gunn from the Location-Based Marketing Association, home of the Toronto Maple Leafs, which are just a little bit better than the Ottawa Senators, and looking forward to that first round playoff match against the Montreal Canadiens.
Can you imagine?
So we got Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, all going strong in this first round anyway. So we'll see where it ends up. But excited that playoff hockey is.
Yes, it is what Canadians live for, man, and especially this battle. Talk about some of the original 7 teams, Ottawa or Montreal and Toronto. That is going to be a bloody battle. I can't wait. It starts next week. But between now and then, we have got this great show. We do this every week for 127 consecutive weeks as we've covered this industry from top to bottom, and we've got 6 great stories again. We got our app of the week. We've also got a great resource and a guest in Edward Marks from Twist. It's a cool little app that we featured here before. I actually got a chance to sit down with Edward for Untether.tv. We'll feature that. Before we get into any of those stories, to see if you spent last week crossing the country, the United States. You had your Seattle launch of the Location-Based Marketing Association chapter, and then you went back into Atlanta for an event with the Atlanta chapter. Tell us about this. What were some of the key takeaways that you got out of this?
Well, both were really great events. It was nice to be in Seattle. We've been planning that chapter for a long time, like a year it seems, and we finally got it done. And Razorfish hosted it at their brand spanking new office, and there was even great weather in Seattle. So it was a little sunny and warm, and we probably lost a couple people to their patios, but good discussion. We had Point Inside and Venue Labs and Costco and Blazing Onion Burger Company and all these guys on the panel, and lots of local startups as well out, and it was just a general good discussion. A lot of the focus in the Seattle event was, as you might expect by the panel, talking about indoor location from Point Inside's perspective. A lot of discussion around analytics overall, and kind of measurement and how important some of the new things are, like the Starcom type of PVRs and stuff that we were talking about a few weeks back. So good discussion there, and then shifted over to Atlanta for an event in partnership with AMA, the Atlanta Interactive Marketing Association, and that was really well attended as well, and we had a different type of panel. It was kind of more retail oriented. We had Arby's and Moe's Southwest Grill and Intercontinental Hotels and Benchmark Brands all on the panel. So that was interesting to hear from their perspectives. Kind of that shift, I think, from they had all tried Foursquare type things over the last year and a half with moderate results, I'll say. But I think generally speaking, we're seeing a shift kind of towards, how can we build this into our own brand initiatives? How can we tie this to the loyalty programs and things of that nature? So I think both were really good discussions, kind of just showing a little bit of maturity in the space.
And I love the diversity that the split of those two events, between Seattle and Atlanta. But so the good takeaway is that, it's everything that we've talked about. There's that theme that we've been talking about throughout these 127 episodes, is that eventually it all has to come back to roost underneath the brand's own identity, and they're not willing to farm that out anymore. They want to control it a little bit more. And we see some companies that are suffering who were helping brands get online and move, or getting mobile and leveraging the location data. And now those companies, now that there's enough intelligence in these organizations that they're bringing them inside, this is going to have a pretty big impact on some of the companies that we've been talking about before. And I think it's the right move. You have to own your brand. You do. Mm-hmm. Well, and this week you've got some other things going on, or is this a relaxing week for you with LBMA related stuff in Toronto?
Yeah, it's actually a bit of a catch up week. I'm at home this week, so just a bunch of local meetings, local members got to connect up with here, and then the following week we're off to Florida for the Retail Technology Exchange. That's May 8th to 10th. That'll be an interesting event because, as you know, we do a lot of retail events. We're connected to a lot of retail events, but this is a little bit different format. This is yes, there's some sessions and I'm doing a keynote and stuff, but the format's quite different. It's you got a bunch of retailers, a bunch of brands on one side, and a bunch of startups and vendors on the other side, and it's kind of preset one-on-one meetings where the startup actually gets to sit down in 20-minute meetings with a retailer and actually pitch them and talk.
So it's not like MMA or anything like cage fighting or anything like that. You got brand guys standing on.
Yeah. So I think that I think that's nice to see that there are brands that are interested enough in what's going on that they're willing to kind of set aside their time like that and actually give a startup, give a tech company, a vendor a chance to actually share a vision with them. So yeah, we'll see.
I like that idea. Is that they have to be. We always talk about these companies like Starbucks who are who are investing in the future. They're testing a lot of the technologies that a lot of the retailers are going to either use or not, and they're the kind of the litmus test. And I like the fact that they would bring these companies, these startups together. So if you are, hopefully it's not too late if you're listening to this and you're hearing about this the first time, you got some technology that fits into the retail space. Check it out, and that's in May, obviously. Very cool. Well, I spent a little bit of time last week in San Francisco. I was part of an event held by Relay Ventures down in San Francisco, and they brought together some of the greatest speakers. A great little package of a condensed, 2/3 of a day event. I had the real privilege of sitting down and doing some interviews while I was there with guys like Sal Khan from the Khan Academy, which is an episode that a small interview, maybe 10 minutes with him, and it was great to get his perspective. He's an inspiring guy. I sat with the chief operating officer for Evernote, and that episode will be up there. The chief strategic guy for Google and their mobile strategy. It was an amazing high quality people. Those episodes will be up. Those interviews will be up online and on Tether.tv eventually, but really, really, really exciting and interesting folks. And then I got to sit down. I can't believe I went and visited with Andrew Warner over from Mixergy, who was the inspiration for Tether.tv for getting all of this started for me. And I get to spend a couple hours drinking scotch with Andrew Warner, and then had to race to get my plane. It was a great, amazing time in San Francisco. So inspiring to get back there. I could go there every week, I think. It's just, the ecosystem down there is stellar. So look for those. And Andrew, if you're listening to this, really appreciate spending some time with you. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, so what do you say we jump into this? We've got our little app of the week, and then we've got our 6 stories, our resource of the weekend, of course, Edward Marks from Twist talking about his latest startup. So let's jump into first story, Asif.
Yeah, so the first story, we usually talk about an app of the week, and this week, we're going to do something that we don't normally do, I think, which is we're going to talk about Foursquare.
What? We talk about them all the time, just maybe not in a good way.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. And it's not so much it's the app of the week. It's just that they I guess about 2 weeks ago, on the 16th, which was Foursquare Day, April 16th.
I missed that.
4th month, 16th day, Foursquare, whatever. You get it all.
I missed that. I didn't see the announcement.
Yeah. Anyhow, they, to kind of celebrate their achievements, they kind of put out some nice little visualization tools for their users. And, I still use Foursquare, as we've talked about on the show from time to time. For me, it's mostly today kind of a history, a benchmark, that I can kind of go back to and kind of look at. What was the name of that restaurant we were hanging out at in Timbuktu?
It's exactly because you're getting old, man. That is exactly the problem.
Because I'm getting old. I need these memory aids, and that's what Foursquare is for me. But anyways, they released this these visualization tools where you can actually look at your last year in check-ins and kind of visualize that in a number of different ways. And You could look at it by category, the types of things that you were checking into. You could look at it by month, and kind of see the density of check-ins, that were happening. And I think if you still use Foursquare and you're out there today, it's kind of a fun little way to look at how that has manifested for you individually over the last year or so. So I encourage people to take a look at that, and it's a nice little visual.
It is, and I was just showing them on the screen. If you are listening to this, you didn't get the benefit of actually seeing it on there, and showing. Actually, I still check in periodically, not through the Foursquare app, but through, say, Instagram or some other app that allows me to do that. It still gives me a good thread of where I've been, and it gives a little bit of publicity to the places that I go, which I think is great. But it just shows that the areas that I'm not active in are college and education, nightlife, and shops. Everything else is fine. Arts and entertainment, pretty big, and professional, and food and travel. So it just shows you that, it just reminds me that I don't have a nightlife anymore.
Yeah, for me it was I was okay on the nightlife thing, mostly because I'm hanging out at conferences and the resulting parties from that. But I'm a bit weak on outdoors and recreation to some extent. Well, not too bad actually. My weakest is residential check-ins.
I don't have any
for sure.
So that's not even a category for me.
Yeah, residential check-ins and college and education. Yeah. I'm
well,
right there.
You know what? It's because I've done that. I don't have to go back to school. Outdoor and recreation, I'm good.
Yeah. This is school here. If you want to learn something, come to this show.
This is why you get this is education. 100%. Well, it was it's a great way to visualize the data, and it just shows you how many times you've checked in or how many times you haven't checked in. But go and take a look at it. You can find this at Foursquare.com. I don't even know how to search for this. Just go to Foursquare.com. I'll give you the long address, Foursquare.com/infographic/4SQ day, Foursquare day, the number 4SQ day. Foursquare.com/infographics/4SQ day, and you will be able to do that, visualize your own, which is pretty cool.
There you go. All right, shall we jump into the stories for the week?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first story for this week comes from the UK, a company called Fizz, F-I-Z, it's another social discovery, location-based, find things around you type of app for both iOS and Android. The reason they jumped into the news this week is they raised a little bit of seed capital, about $350K US dollars, 200,000 UK pounds, and I think
that's all I have to say.
For me, it's another social discovery app. I mean, I guess what's unique about this is they're trying to focus this a little bit on the travel and hospitality sector specifically. The guys who are running this come from that background. One of the investors and one of the new directors is the former VP of emerging markets for Expedia. Apparently, they've got another high net worth investor who also comes from the travel industry. So they're coming at this from that kind of travel hospitality sector, kind of focusing social discovery around this. We've talked enough on this show about how we think that this market is going and the lack of opportunity left in this market. For me, the platform is more like the original Whirl platform, because the way it works is that it's about finding categories of things and people associated with those categories. So you search on this thing for fun and leisure, nature and outdoors, food and drink. Didn't we just talk about this though in the visualization like 5 seconds ago from Foursquare? So there's really not a lot of uniqueness to this platform at all. I think where there may be a play for these guys is if they can get enough of a user base around this and prove the model out in the UK. Given the pedigree of the team here, maybe this is something that they could flip to an Expedia or somebody else to kind of build into, a TripAdvisor or something along those lines as a feature, not as a standalone product.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that there may be an opportunity here, as part of something bigger, but as a standalone, I don't see any big opportunity.
Well, I think the biggest challenge with companies like this is that they don't own that data, and if it's yet another social network, right? Yasin, that's a new one. Yet another social network, and it's yet another. I mean, you go through that whole process of having to find users and getting user contributed content, and I mean, most people by now have committed to a platform that does all of this already quite effectively, whether it's Yelp or Foursquare or Facebook or any of these other larger companies with millions of users. And the idea that you're going to come in there and compete against that with an offering like this, with no revenue model, maybe there's some data analytics behind it, but you're leveraging everybody else's data. And it's the worst place right now to be, which is reliant on somebody else's data. And I mean, I'm not going to be as nice as you. Fizz.com is useless. This is one of those things that maybe there's a good team in there, but it's what they're challenging, what they're trying to do is something that is 3 years past its due date.
Yeah. No, totally agree with that.
Why do this?
I mean, the only silver lining here potentially is get a couple 100,000 people on this thing, show that it works within the travel sector, and then flip it to one of the big travel players as a feature.
Like for $80, because and even I mean the only thing that would save this is if they had those core users in a neighborhood or a small spot, right? They're targeting anybody who wants to do anything with their leisure time for social discovery, and that is a useless business model. This is what's frustrating about this, is that there's so much potential and everybody congregates around the crappy ideas that are 3 years old. And this is one of those crappy ideas. I'm sorry, but it's time to be innovative when you've got the world.
Don't be sorry. I'm right with you, dude.
Well, I'm sorry for the founders who are spending their money on this. Don't put another dime in this. Go and find a business model. Go and find something that's actually somebody who's going to use and it actually hasn't been created. Enough with this. This is a global marketplace, a global business marketplace, where maybe it would have worked 2 or 3 years ago, where they had Foursquare or Yelp in the United States and you wanted to build something in the UK. But the UK is a sophisticated market now that they are using Facebook and Foursquare. They're not in the dark ages. So why would anybody put money in this? I have no freaking idea. No idea. And if you're using this, or if you're a founder or an investor in this, come on, defend it.
Come on and tell us, yeah.
Fizz.com. Fizz, perfect name. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm sorry, but that wow. Let's go places. What? Yeah. Anyway, Fizz.com.
Well, speaking about going places, let's talk about traveling on a school bus.
Please change the subject before I keep going down this path.
Let's talk about traveling on a school bus. So, our next story is kind of a two-part one, both around the same subject matter. And we'll start with the United Arab Emirates over in Dubai. What we learned this week is that Emirates Transport, which operates about 3,200 school buses, has decided to deploy a sophisticated GPS tracking system on these buses, as well as RFID tags on the students riding the buses. All under the premise of safety and tracking these students and allowing parents to know what's going on, and also being able to get support out to a bus if it breaks down and all this kind of stuff. At first glance, I read this and I go, really? Do we really need this kind of stuff? Do we really need to be tracking every school bus and every student on the bus and all of that? And then you see things like what happens in some of these latest terror attacks and all this crazy stuff that's happening everywhere. And, even here in Canada while I was away, there was the attempted, train attack.
Yeah.
On Via. And, on the one hand, I'm like, I'm bewildered by this. On the other hand, I'm I'm a parent and I get it. And I go, you know what? I don't mind this, actually. This for me is just the next step in how this technology becomes useful, and there's good utility here, so there you go.
I think that I'm with you on this because I'm a parent, and for those of you who are listening who aren't parents, you don't understand what it's like to put your children on a bus and send them on their way. And I mean, buses in Canada don't have seatbelts. It's a crazy thing to think that you're going to put the trust in somebody else who's driving a bus without seatbelts or any kind of safety. But I think the big thing here is there's two sides to this. There's that invasion of privacy side, and there's that secure or concern for security and accountability side. And the buses, I'm surprised that buses in the Emirates don't have, all of our public transportation here is GPS enabled so that they can make sure that the flow of traffic is effective and they know when you're going to be picked up at a bus stop. But I like this idea about tracking the buses and the whereabouts, and especially some of these are spurred by events that happen on the bus, some devastating events that happen on buses. Mm-hmm. I like it for the safety aspect of this alone. And they're doing something like this just north of Atlanta, where they're actually putting RFID tags on, not on kids, like they're not implanting them, but they're wearing badges with RFID tags so that when kids get onto a bus, they're tagged on the bus, and when they get off the bus, they're tagged off the bus. And RFID only works within a small circle, of an RFID reader. So it's not like you can, stand back and scan it from a great distance. But kids get on and off a bus. I like that. The anonymous data, making sure that they don't spend too much time on the bus, because there could be an issue. We've seen this in incidents in India, unfortunately. And where you also make sure that the kids are actually getting on and off the bus at the right spot. And we've all heard these stories of kids getting on the wrong bus, being taken to the wrong place, parents frantic trying to find that kid. And if this eliminates that fear, as long as it's not abused, I like there's some good, but there's also that concern, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I guess, at the end of the day, as you said right at the beginning, I mean, this is, as a parent, if I can log on to a website and I can see that, my kid got on the bus and they got off the bus and they arrived at school, and, then I'm happy.
Better yet, if there's a notification that the kid didn't get on the bus or didn't get off the bus, right, at the right spots. I think those are the key things. Exactly. And Life 360 is doing this, right? This is the whole managing your family, and it's sometimes you, like, it's terrible, but it's the reality of the world. And I was talking to my mother about this, is that, after the bombings in Boston, and I said, I wish we could go back to that time where we didn't have to worry about this kind of stuff. And she made that comment to me that said, basically, that would have been well before you were alive. You weren't aware of what was going on. I mean, this is just life's realities now, and it's unfortunate. But I think that then I went back to her and I said, I just wish we could go back to the time where I didn't know about this stuff, right? So whatever it was, that innocence that happens, but the reality as a parent, your number one priority in life is to protect your children at all costs. And I think that in that context, my arms are not waving saying this is an invasion of privacy. This is something that I would welcome. If my kids got on a bus, I want to know just two things: that they're on the bus. When I leave them, they get off at the right spot.
And they're where they're supposed to be, or where you expect them to be, right? And I think that's where the notification pieces, can become quite valuable. Attendance, alerts, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's a different world than when you and I grew up.
So true.
Sure.
I'm very fearful of this sometimes. It's the one thing that keeps me numb a little bit. But so we'd like to know if you are in line with that. It would be interesting to see the parents versus non-parents, because parents have I'd probably say a little bit more liberal view about this than people without kids, because it's either you're being tracked by the man or the man is helping you. And in this instance, perhaps the man is actually helping. Right?
Yeah. There you go.
Very cool. I love these little controversial stories like this. And from one controversial story to a not so controversial story, our third story here is a company called, I'm going to assume it's called Swipp, right? Yeah. So this is a company called Swipp that is quite literally a rate everything, discover everything application. These guys just raised $2 million, and it's basically, if you have an opinion about something, a brand, if you have an opinion about a movie, if you have an opinion about anything, kind of reminds me of Oink in the old days, Kevin Rose's company Milk, where you can actually just rate it, and you give it a rating, a number rating, in fact, between 1 and 5. And this reminds me of another company called Notch, at notch.it, does the same thing in a very visual way. So this is obviously an emerging market, emerging business model.
It's an emerging market. I mean, people want to be able to, have some quantifiable types of data, right? That helps them understand the opinions of things that they're responsible for delivering in the market. And what's interesting here, or what's, I guess, a little bit different here than, say, the Oink or the Notch piece, is that this isn't just a consumer play. So they have, what they've announced here is an enterprise, or what they call Swipp Plus, an enterprise version of the app that has a bunch of kind of widgets that you can embed into your website. It's got a bunch of different ways to segment the data, and really this is about powering an enterprise's ability to monitor and track their locations, the people that work in their locations, anything to do with their brand, and to gather some data about that. So to some extent, I think there's some value in that, and we heard this certainly from the Seattle event that that movement towards more analytics and a better understanding, and a quantifiable way to kind of look at the conversation that's going on around my location, around the people that work in my restaurant, around the people that are enabled and selling my product, all that kind of stuff, and gathering ratings, if you will, or data on that, I think is interesting. And if I can somehow build that into my own back-end dashboards and things like that, which is what they're doing with the Swipp Plus piece, which is a piece that they charge for, I believe. It's not I think the Swipp General app is free. So we'll see how this evolves, but it's certainly an emerging market, around kind of getting quantifiable data in this space, quantifiable sentiment information in this space.
Yep, and I think that from a business standpoint, maybe this is good. Again, it's all about user base, right? If you only have 3 people using it,
yep.
All these companies, the big challenge is getting users on this platform. And that this is an emerging spot because we've named. Oink was first on the market to try to do something with this. Rate anything anywhere. That was the concept. It didn't go very far. It had about 125,000 users. I think early adopters when it actually when he sold it his company Milk to Google. And then Notch.it, Knotch.it is another company, and obviously Swipp.com, Swipp.com. So obviously this is an emerging market. Keep your eye on it, and it is just the beginning. The rate everything anywhere era has begun. So you can offer your opinion. Swipp.com. All right, we're going to take a little bit of break here. Got a great guest here. I was introduced to Edward Marks maybe 3 years ago. I sat down with him for the very first episode that I did with him on Tether.tv. Back then, he was a co-founder in a company called Inedible Software. And these were the guys that made everything from, remember you must have used this, the Lighter app. That it was like a Zippo app, and you could share, you could ignite somebody else's flame based on proximity and Bluetooth and all those kind of. It was early on, really novelty based applications. And there was the shotgun app that they had, where you basically had your iPhone and you cocked your shotgun and you could shoot. And then they did one with the iPad, which was a bazooka. They ended up getting between 10 and 15 million users for these applications, sold their company about 18 months ago, and they started a company called Twist, or at least one of the Edward went off with three other partners and started something called Twist. And we featured Twist here as one of our apps to watch, which was basically a notification application that allowed you to, when you were going to a destination, you could set up a twist that said, notify them when I'm going to be there. Give me the, based on the route, based on the traffic, based on everything that all of these things that fit into travel. Tell them when I'm going to be there, and then notify them, let them know when I'm going to be there, and notify them when I'm 5 minutes away. And it can be done over email and SMS. It's a pretty cool. I love these kind of services that reside in the behind the scenes that just do this on your behalf. And you do have to tell them to start. And I use it all the time when I'm coming home or going into meetings. I love this app. And I had an opportunity to sit down with Edward to talk about Twist, talk about the challenges, the businesses, the pitfalls, and the experience it is to start this up. They've been doing this now for over a year, raised some money, and so I'll let Edward tell you about it. This is Edward Marks of Twist, one of the co-founders.
Kind of got going. We just got a whiteboard, and actually Google Docs was really cool because we could all type on the same document at the same time. And so sit in a room with a doc open and kind of be brainstorming about what we wanted to do. And we very, very quickly went to a prototype.
And it was called,
And so,
When Soon.
when
Yeah,
soon?
and I mean, when the way I described it at the beginning of this is this application that it's very difficult. It's very easy to use, but when I say, listen, it goes into your calendar and it checks out what event is coming up for you. It asks you if you want to create a twist, and the twist is basically that says, listen, it ties that event to that location to that person, and then as I embark on getting to that meeting, it keeps that person informed about when I'm leaving and when I'm expected to arrive, based on traffic patterns, based on everything. It's pretty awesome, right? I mean, this is as much data, artificial intelligence as you can get in that one relationship with my calendar and that person. Is that a good way to describe it? Did I miss anything there?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much right. I mean, it doesn't have to be launched in your calendar.
Yeah.
You can enter things into the app itself. But yeah, there's some kind of a meetup that's going to happen, or you're going to go see someone. Actually, our most common use case are people going home after work. They used to send an on my way text message. We can actually do that in fewer taps, and it's better. So it tells them when you're going to show up, and then they can kind of see your little route. And then it starts on its own, it stops on its own.
And you don't have to have,
just runs in your pocket.
The other person doesn't have to have the app. They get a text message or they get an email, right? So it's kind of all encompassing around this. I said I've used it. I'm fascinated with it, and I'm so glad that you're involved in this. So how far off is the product today from where you were sitting around with the team conceptualizing 18 months ago? Same ideas?
Yeah, it's actually in some ways similar. So we did this prototype actually where all four of us kind of converged on the same spot, and all of our ETAs were being shared and all of our dots on the map. We actually didn't get back to that point probably for another year.
Wow.
Because we focused much more at first on the one-to-one case, like I'm going somewhere, and then eventually we tied them all back together again to where multiple people could be seen on the same map. And so part of it was that, I mean, it's easy to make prototypes. That's why you make them. And then as you start to put try to get it productized where it's really got the cases handled and the failure modes, and when errors come up, you can recover gracefully, all of that stuff. I don't know what percentage of the total work it is. 75% of the total work, 90% of the total work. It's something unfortunately large.
I mean, that's the hard part, right? There's a couple of hard parts building a company, and one of them is building the product so that it's functional, useful, and usable. So you're sitting around, the company's funded at that point, or is getting funded, or, I mean, what's the state at this point? Is Bill just putting his money into it, or what's going on?
No, we kind of started on our own.
Yeah.
None of us needed to draw a paycheck right away. Right. And so we worked for a couple, maybe 3-4 months on our own, kind of working on the idea and trying to get it going. And then eventually we went and we pitched with the prototype.
Okay. How important was that to pitch with something like a prototype? So, I mean, it might be easy to explain 2 years later because everybody's reliance on the devices escalated, right? But how hard was it? Like, you thought it was really important to have that prototype to be able to pitch this properly?
It was a pretty cool pitch because what happened was I got the venture capitalists a beta build of the app through test flight, and it was just a blank screen that said something will happen. Didn't say what would happen, didn't say when it would happen. It said something will happen. And then we had our own versions of the same app where there's one button you hit. You just hit go, and it would just make a route to Sand Hill Road, and it would put you on it, right? So that was it. There was no searching for destinations. There was no picking recipients. It was all kind of ready to roll. And so you did that, and then all of a sudden their apps just woke up. And there were 4 dots, one from San Francisco, one from Saratoga, me from Palo Alto, and one from Mountain View, all kind of converging on the same spot with 4 lines in 4 different colors, all kind of coming together. And it was, I didn't actually, we'd worked, I worked basically 8 continuous days trying to get this prototype to work. And I worked, all through the weekend, 16 hours a day. And we didn't get time to do a test run.
Oh, nice.
And so I didn't know until I got in the car whether or not it was really going to work. I was pretty sure it was going to work, but I never actually done the drive there and handle all the details. And so I'm sitting there and I look at my phone and I'm like, yeah, and the car's swerving on the road, right? And it was flawless, right? All 4 dots came together. It turned off on its own just perfectly. And so being able to demonstrate to them, one of the motivations for making the app was that in the previous year, Bill had taken 200 pitches for angel investment. And really often someone's, can I get directions? I'm running late. They're texting while driving. They're running early. They're trying to get his phone number. Whatever it is, there's all this pain around meeting. And so the venture capitalists have the same pain.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are late to their pitches. I'm sure, people get lost trying to get to them. I actually got a little bit lost trying to find the right parking lot. I got out on foot and I have the phone in one hand and running with the other, trying to get there. And so we wanted to kind of demonstrate, put them in the pain seat, because most of what Twist is about is the receiver.
Yeah.
The sender feels better because they know that they have relieved the receiver of this uncertainty and this anxiety, and that they're on the same page. They know you're late. It's going to be okay.
You're human.
As opposed to, yeah.
Like, that's the problem, is that if we just took all the humans out of this, nobody would be late. We'd be an efficient race of robots or something like that, right? Edward Marks, ladies and gentlemen. If you're interested in Twist, go to twist.com, one of the best domain names on the planet. I don't know how he got it, although he did say that in that full-length episode, which will be up on Untether.tv shortly, that they did buy it. They wouldn't disclose how much they paid for it, but they did buy it. But really cool little concept of a company. I love what they do, and I'm going to assume that somebody at some point, this is my own speculation, is going to buy this company simply for the technology and integrate it into something soon. But I think that Twist is an interesting place, so go and check it out, twist.com. Have you had a chance to play with that yet, Steve?
I have not.
It's worth it. Especially when it's a little bit easier to just set and forget. Like, what it does is it pulls up it resides in the background and says, like, you give it permission to your calendar. It says, oh, you have a meeting at 3:00 with so and so. Would you like to set up a Twist for that? And all you do is hit yes, and then it does everything else for you. So I like that kind of.
Yeah, that's one of those things I get to do this week when I'm like actually home and not on the road is play with some of these apps that I haven't had a chance to really get to yet, including Tempo. Tempo,
play. I got an opportunity to meet Raj right in person at this event in San Francisco. I am a huge fan of Tempo. If you haven't played with it, go to tempo.ai. It's not part of our show, but I can't help but promote the heck out of it simply because it is a great application. It saves me a ton of time, and I love the social integration. Anyway, tempo.ai. If you're interested, look at episode number 126 last week. We talked to Raj, or you can go to untether.tv for a long form interview with that about Tempo. Enough of that. All right, back into the stories, man. So we talked, story number 2 was about the Emirates and a school board outside of Atlanta tracking students on and off a bus. Now, what about tracking workers in and out of an office, in and out of projects? This company called PunchIn launched punch.in. So basically what this is an application that allows you to check into the workplace, check into projects, time your work. Talk about Big Brother. This, I'm not so sure will fly in the face of privacy concerns and of Big Brother, like corporate Big Brother watching you. How do you bring this into an organization and say, oh, don't worry, this is just for cost benefits. This is micromanagement to an nth degree. Connecting to your workplace in this way. So checking into projects, and then you can collaborate on projects with people who have checked into that project, and then you can also time your events and how much time you've actually put into the projects. This is maybe a little bit extreme for me. I would not do this if I was an organization, and I would push back if an organization put this in front of me. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you on that. I'll start with this. So let's be a little bit positive.
Well, yeah, I'm positive.
I like the name.
Yes.
I like the name. Okay, punch.in. It says what it is, right? It's like the old punch clock right there, right? So I'll start by saying I like the name.
Oh no!
Check-ins to the workplace. Conceptually, I can agree with it. My problem with this is twofold. So I think getting, from an organizational behavior perspective, getting people to buy into this concept of, checking in, if you will, into all their various work activities and their projects that they're working on and all that kind of stuff. I think this is a difficult sell internally. So that's my challenge number 1 with this thing. I think number 2, for me, this is not something that I see as a successful standalone technology startup type of thing. I think this is something that you layer into Salesforce.com or something that's already established within the sort of corporate efficiency and effectiveness type of tools that they've got for managing projects, project management, and so on. And maybe that's their game here. Maybe this is like with the Fizz argument. Build it out, get enough of an initial traction, and then flip it to one of those big project management systems that companies do use. A lot of big companies use in particular. So. And maybe in some markets outside of North America, this has more weight. I don't know.
I don't see it. I can't see it.
I'm like you. I mean, but maybe we both come from running entrepreneurial startup businesses. This is more big company kind of thing. But I think it's tough to sell this from a cultural perspective, employee culture perspective.
Well, think about this, Asif, is that I've run companies, started companies, run companies, had Salesforces, integrated Salesforce. Like a perfect example, as you brought up, was Salesforce.com. We brought that into the company. We pay huge dollars every quarter for licenses. Yeah. And the biggest challenge was humans getting the data in there, right? Getting them to adopt it. And even when it was part of their job to use this tool, it was always a harassment. I mean, management looks at these tools and says, "Oh my God, that is perfect. We'll just implement." But then it changes the way people do their work, right? You have to force it on people, and to do this, there would be pushback, especially because there's this little thing called the admin portal, which allows you to monitor all of this activity. And we're entering this age where this generation of worker, whatever your opinion is about this generation of worker that's coming to the workforce right now, this does not sit well with those guys. And I'm of the firm belief, if you are brought on to do work, do your work, do it exceptionally well, and we will have no problems. I don't want to monitor you. What I want you to do is do your job and do it effectively. And you want to do your job and do it effectively. You do not want to be babysat, and that's what this is to me. This is a management tool built for managers, not for employees. And it's a...
But I got it all figured out,
okay.
Rob.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what happens is you work in a company that's got this system, okay? So this company's using punch.in, and then the workers use the Swipp app to rate their bosses.
And then it's over. Yeah. It's quickly over.
And then it's over.
So with this thing though, you can do you can punch in to projects, to locations, obviously to your office. You can do your time counter, basically how much time you spent on it, and then you go back and edit it. So if you have timesheets, I think they're just trying to do too much with this thing, and it's misdirected, misguided in a way that nobody's going to use this. Nobody's going to adopt it. There's going to be so much employee pushback. And I think that even if you do get this in there, if you have anything to do with organized workers like unions, this will never fly in the face of that. This will absolutely never fly. So, I mean, I love the idea, the bright idea piece of this. But boy, oh boy, this is not something that we'll adopt. I would never use this in any of my companies, ever, ever, ever. It just says so much about you as an employer. You got to trust your employees. It's because it's about loyalty, isn't it, Asif? That's exactly what this is. It's about loyalty.
And our next two stories are all about
yes,
so,
in a good way.
Two great companies coming together. Been in a relationship for a few years. We're talking about Visa and Fandango. Fandango is the movie app that is owned by NBC Universal. And they've been in a relationship, three-year partnership with Visa. And what this story is about is a new feature called Tixpress, or Tix. I don't know if that's how you say it. Tixpress. I'm going with that. Tixpress. Unlike Punch.in, that name,
not so good.
I'm not sure about that name. Anyways, so this is all about Fandango's mobile app. It's all about Visa partnering up with them and enabling people based on location to see what movies are playing near them, to get that movie listing from a location perspective, and to be able to pay directly, and buy those tickets directly through the mobile app using your Visa card. And for me, this just speaks to an overall trend that we're seeing around loyalty, card linked offers, and tying all those kinds of things together. So like the Foursquare Amex partnership that we've talked about a few times on the show, like the Visa Shopkick partnership, And the many others that are evolving, between credit card and mobile platform, or loyalty card and mobile platform. This for me is just another step in the right direction. That enables me to find the movies around me. Fandango's got a fantastic user base. I mean, they've got 32 million downloads of their app. So there's lots of people that have this thing, and so adding this layer of functionality where if I'm a Visa card holder, I just associate my Fandango account with my Visa account, and then these movie listings come up. I can buy my ticket. I can pay for it with my Visa. I can get discounts on that because I'm using Visa. So they've got, for example, a save $5 off a $25 Fandango gift card. If you're using your Visa card. They've got buy one get one free offers if you use your Visa card on Friday nights. I mean, they've got all this kind of loyalty, and connectivity between. I like movies. I've got the Fandango app, and I'm a Visa card holder. So this is all good for me.
It's all good for me as well. Like, this is, I think we're going to start, obviously we start seeing this more and more and more. The best way to get to an audience is leverage somebody else's. And that's exactly what Fandango's doing. And it's a great way for Visa to be the card of choice when it comes to, an emerging company like Fandango. I like these kind of partnerships. That's all I got to say is that, I don't make a decision about the movie about, proximity to to the movies. I mean, I will go to a theater that's 5, 6, 10 miles away, because I don't live near one, but I like these. I like this integration, and eventually you can see this even getting a lot closer with loyalty for Visa tying right into Fandango, just transparently, right? You get things in the mail from Fandango through Visa that way, and I think that this is the start of a great relationship, and I think that obviously, as you said, this is an emerging trend that you're seeing, this kind of partnership. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the discussion at our Atlanta event was around this kind of loyalty programs and tying this to our brand. Intercontinental, for example, was on the program. Bill Keane, great guy. I mean, this is a guy who knows what's going on around digital and hospitality and tourism and top guests and all those kinds of programs that are important in the travel industry. But so much of that discussion was around this kind of loyalty, adding value to loyalty, layering location on top of that, enabling mobile payments, through loyalty platforms, all that kind of stuff. I think is definitely a movement that where there's significant value for everybody. It's not just here's another check-in platform. So I like that. And I don't know, Rob, I don't know for you, but I don't know, what's your next movie that you're going to see?
Come on, May 3rd. Are you kidding?
Iron Man
3. It is absolutely, it's on my kids' radar. This is the month of movies, because you've got Iron Man 3, you've got Superman reboot, and then you've also got Star Trek. Like, this is the spring.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Geeking
crazy
out here, but I cannot wait. I often don't get excited about movies, and then Thor comes out in the fall. This is my youth coming back this spring. I can't wait.
I know.
Oh man. All right. The other thing, when it comes to loyalty, is that I don't know about you, but I am completely not loyal to my gas station, to any gas station. I mean, my loyalty is it $1.16 a liter or $1.22 a liter, and I'm going to go with $1.16 versus the $1.22. That is it. My loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
So our last story is about these fuel retailers getting together and creating almost a universal payment loyalty program. And I just, I'm not loyal to. It's gas. Gas is a commodity.
It's gas, and it is. But I think in Canada, I think you and I aren't necessarily we're probably more the exception from that perspective, because what I can tell you for sure, I've done a lot of work personally up here with Shell, and Shell is part of the Air Miles program up here in Canada, and I know a lot of people who are avid Air Miles collectors that go to Shell to buy their gas, regardless of whether it's 5 cents more or less than Petro-Canada or at Esso, because they want those loyalty points. So it does happen. It's a significant driver, I can tell you for sure, for Air Miles, having had those conversations with them up here in Canada. this story here specifically, I think is not that different in some respects. Other than it's a bunch of it's 30,000 independent fuel retailers that have formed an organization called Impact Org and have a prepaid card program called the Impact Prepaid Card to kind of do their own mobile payments platform, if you will. So they've launched a new thing called Sonic, is that right? Psionic Mobile. And this is both loyalty and mobile payments all kind of tied together. The story is kind of being woven as bucking the trend of retailers to jump on the MCX or the Merchant Customer Exchange initiative by launching their own. There's some value here for users. They get a 1% instant reward or rebate, if you will, off of what they spend. They get a 5 cent per gallon discount on fuel when they pay with their phone. Or with the Impact card, that's part of this when you walk into the store and use your card. So, I think there's some value here if you are, okay with buying your gas from an independent fuel retailer. Then yeah, that can happen. And apparently they've got 250,000 people on the platform already. So, yeah, I think there's some value here. I think some of us are price conscious, and some of us want to see can we gather some points? Can we do some kind of loyalty program? And is there value there? So I don't dispute this initiative. I think this has some value. I know the MCX program. I was just with those guys in Chicago a few weeks ago, talking to Dodd Roberts and those guys who run the MCX, and they're getting huge traction from the mainstream retailers. This is obviously focused on independent fuel retailers, and I think in both cases you're going to see a lot of success with these programs.
And they have to, especially the independent guys. I mean, we talked to Beergram a while ago, Andrea, and what we talked about there was, listen, these are craft breweries. These aren't the big brew pumps that just pump out beer, if you call it that. These are artisan beers, and it's the same thing I think with these fuel guys, is that they have to do something that drives traffic, but it always comes down to price, right? Like what we're talking about there is a 5% or a 5 cent per gallon discount when you use your mobile payment, you use your mobile device to pay, or a 1% discount, or a bunch of points that you get as a result of it. In Canada is that the driving factors that I have Air Miles and I have Aeroplan, and those are the ones that are accepted at most. You get points at most gas stations, and if I'm in one or the other, it doesn't matter. I'm getting rewards one way or another, and my reward is really ultimately that I don't want to pay very much for gas. And I think that's what ends up happening here. You can put as much technology around all of this, but in the eyes of the consumer, it's the best value, and that could be rewards, but it's going to be based on price. Like I would sacrifice my reward points for Aeroplan and anything if I could get 10 cents off of a liter, right? I mean, that's.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? I mean, they're saying by using this, you're getting 5 cents off, right? Per liter. And the other thing, I was.
But it depends,
because
if their gas at these independent gas stations, are 8 cents more than the big chains, and they're going to give me.
But they're typically not, right? I mean, typically the independent retailers are less, right? And if you're already going to save even more by doing this, and the perfect case in point around this is, we did our event in Seattle, and we had Rob Walters on that panel from Costco. And I can tell you, I know Costco members here in Canada, and I know talking to Costco down there, one of the number one drivers for Costco membership is gas.
Yeah.
Right? It's that savings. I mean, people line up because it's like 5-10 cents cheaper than anywhere else. Right? And you can't get it unless you're a Costco member.
That's the benefits, right? But you know what? You can throw anything around here. You can talk about loyalty, and you can talk about this, and you can talk about that. You can talk about integration with payments and the complexity that all this does. But the bottom line is that what drives us as consumers, cost, right? So I mean,
for sure.
It's one thing to force me to pay with my device. Fine, whatever, to get the discount. But that's too much friction. You want me to be a part of this. You want me to shop at a smaller chain. Just give me a better price. Like, so sometimes I think that we put too much, we make things too complex, right? We're thinking about, okay, so how do we get the loyalty in there? Like, if you want my loyalty, just make it cheaper. Give me some value to be there, and that's the first step. And I mean, Costco is an interesting one because you pay a $50 membership and you get all the discounts in the big bulk foods, but then you're getting discounts in tires, you're getting discounts in gas, you're getting discounts in absolutely everything that you can imagine. I mean, pretty soon it'll be haircuts and everything along those lines, and healthcare. So anyway, they have to do something because they're getting weeded out, just like the record stores in the olden days, and the CD stores and the bookstores got destroyed, and the smaller grocery stores got destroyed. At least they're being proactive about this so that the big companies don't come in there and just dominate in all the small neighborhoods. So I like it from that angle, and I would support this if we had something like this in Canada. Yeah. Oh, so if you're interested, I mean, you can go to impactorg.org, and you can find out a little bit more about what these guys are doing, very cool. 6 stories. Our feature of the week, which was the visualizing your Foursquare check-ins over the last year. We had Edward Marks coming on of Twist. Look for that full episode coming up on Untether.tv. And our last piece of business, Asif. I come from the mobile gaming world, and here is an infographic of the history of location-based games. Pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I thought this was a nice little. I mean, it's a simple infographic, but it's nice to kind of be able to every once in a while look back, right? I mean, whether it's visualizing your Foursquare check-ins over the last year, or looking back in this case, over the last 13 years from '99 to now, the history of location-based gaming. It goes all the way back to the first mobile phone with GPS. When dodgeball and geocaching was happening in 2000. Kind of works its way through, to Google Maps coming out in 2005. Kind of progresses a bit further when we got Foursquare and Gowalla and kind of that kind of gaming aspect. Scavenger launched in 2009, and then all the way to last year where we had Ingress, coming out of Google, and Please Stay Calm and No Zombies and all these kinds of Life is Crime and all these kinds of interesting location-based role-playing games and things. So it's nice to kind of just look back and see that there's been some progress in this space, and that there's still a fun aspect to location in the sense of gaming happening around it. And
I love that. Please Stay Calm, Toronto-based company. I really like these. This is a good visualization. We were doing a lot of these things with Magmic early on in the days in the mobile gaming space, where we tried to leverage location. The very first location device smartphone that was out there was like like a BlackBerry 7200. It was like a chocolate bar size phone, and it was the very first device to integrate GPS. And the challenge with it back in those days, 2004, 2005. Very early on in this was that it took like 9 minutes to get a lock on your location. And it drained the entire battery just to do that. So it wasn't as effective. But now we're starting to see these things like Ingress, which is taking off. And as we've talked about before, it's spawning an entire book series. I mean, and it's all based on these location games. I like that. It's a great thing. And if you're looking at this thinking, has it accelerated since this really began? And I would say no. It's remained a pretty steady number of games that have been released, and this is just a sampling of them. But you can expect, as these devices become smarter, battery consumption becomes manageable, location data becomes pervasive, and these devices, crossed a threshold. Obviously, recently, You're going to start to see this. Many more people adding to this game list. It's pretty amazing. So if you're interested in that, I found this on Boston.com. Are we going to have a link to this for the LBMA, or should we just direct them to the...
it'll be on the research
the LBMA.com/research if you're interested in the history of location-based games. All right, we are done. Episode number 127 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing. We will be back next week for number 128. I implore you, if you enjoyed this, if you made it this far, it must mean something. Please, we'd appreciate a good review. It's our currency. Go to wherever you found this, whatever podcasting software you are using, and give us a rating. That's all it takes, is just got to go up and hit a star, right? Not 1 star, but you got to hit the number 4 or 5 stars, which is what we'd appreciate. It means a lot to us. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, Really, 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 it's the best way to get it in your inbox ahead of everybody else. You don't have to come to the websites and watch the video on a web browser. You can just get it downloaded on one of these devices, take it to go, listen to it on your commute, listen to it, while you're at work, while you're at the gym. Just go and subscribe. That means it's always there for you whenever we release a new podcast, and you can do that through whatever software, it's Stitcher, through iTunes, whatever you want to do. Just go and do it. Do a search for This Week in Location-Based Marketing in that little search bar in whatever software you use, and you will find this podcast. It is the only podcast of the 250,000 podcasts out there that covers this industry with such depth. You will not find another one. So please go and subscribe, and you will always, always, always be in the know when it comes to location-based marketing and the world of mobile. That's my pitch.
That's it. We're good.
All right, Asif, enjoy your week in Toronto. We'll be back next week for episode number 128. Everybody, thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you are, whatever you're doing. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
All right. Cheers.